God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoiseth and Dave Dabbah.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 15 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoiseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I am Dave Dabbah up in Northern California, and I will speak for Brad on this. I know we were both super excited about the 15th week of your National Football League season. And I have to say, Brad, what a weekend of football we experienced last weekend. Now, Brad and I have not in any way talked about what we were going to talk about at the opening of this show. I just wanted to just dive in and get into it and hear what Brad has to say. I do want to just point out one thing to you, Brad, that as hard as this is for me to say, that was a fantastic loss by the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football.
A fantastic loss, but a loss nonetheless, is what I say about that. And I think you're going to see more losses from your Cleveland Browns. Hey, look. We weren't on last week, so we should probably tell everybody why. I had a little COVID scare at my house. Everything's good. Nobody's got it. But I had a friend that had been over a couple days earlier in the backyard, and he called me that Wednesday, and he said, I got it. And I'm like, oh, man. And so you and I took the week off. Hey, didn't mean we didn't pick games. We posted them on the Mighty Rip. Both had a good week. We're actually both quite hot right now. I mean, these last 2 weeks, I think I'm 13, 6, and 1 overall. You and I did our totals for the year. We're one game separating us from, so every game now is big.
It was unbelievable when I looked at the totals. I was like, Brad Hoiseth is beating Dave Dabbah by just one game. And then you know, as I was picking my games this weekend, they have more value now, Brad, because I want to crush you. I want to beat you in this competition that we have.
You
know, maybe the winner.
Cowboys are done, so
yeah. Maybe the winner of this competition is going to get a free dinner from Applebee's, gift card to Applebee's.
Oh, by the way, speaking of gifts, we should probably get this out of the way as well. The super fan this week sending me a photo of her in her new sweatshirt. Look at that right there, Dave.
Oh, right. A Gods of Odds. Yes.
And so that gives us time to maybe promote the Gods of Odds merch. Go to the Mighty.Rip merch store. You might find that one there. And I can assure you this, our super fan says it's comfortable, it's warm, and she's never been happier about getting a sweatshirt in the mail.
There you go. And what more can you ask for from a quality hoodie? You know, Brad, you want them to be comfortable, you want them to look good, and you want them to keep you warm, especially in the winter. So do check out the big Gods of Odds hoodie. It comes in a couple different colors and a bunch of different sizes.
Yeah, speaking of things that are not warm, however, how about Dan Bailey of the Vikings or Michael Badgley of the Chargers? Look, I've seen some bad kicking. I don't know if you watched the Vikings game or not last week, Dave, but the final kick that he missed, I don't know, 50-yarder or something, and that thing landed in a different area code. It wasn't even close. And yet we wake up and the guy is still on the roster. Yeah. What is Dan Bailey still on the roster for?
I just don't know. And like as I was and I sat through every painful moment of that game, Brad. And it was really so difficult to watch because I knew Zimmer was trotting him out with no confidence at times. They even put him out for like that 54-yard field goal attempt in the earlier in the game, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's not going to make it. I mean, like I would say everybody in the stadium knew that, and they did. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, that was a game that the loss to Dallas, and this Tampa Bay game, and you know, it's a game that they could have won. I'm not saying they would have, but they certainly could have if they had a real field goal kicker. But it's not just Dan Bailey, Brad. It is the entire National Football League. It seems as if every time I turn on a game these days, I see a field goal kicker missing an extra point. I see a field goal kicker missing a chip shot. It is, we've got this actual real pandemic going on, but there's a pandemic of bad kicking in the National Football League. When will it end, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Harrison Butker and Justin Tucker and Younghoe Koo. And then it's like, well, the young kid in Miami, I guess, has had a pretty good season. But, it seems as if they're playing a different game than the rest of the guys out there. Because they almost never miss. And I watch Bailey kick, and, I remember when as a kid, I used to watch baseball. And there was like two guys, Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn, who, against odds, I expected them to get on base. Yeah. They were like the two rare guys that everybody else you hope gets a hit. I expected those guys to get. When I see Dan Bailey or Michael Badgley kick, I go, there's no way. It's not going through the up. I said it last night before Badgley missed his final kick. I said, that's it. The Chargers, this game's over. And, of course, he yanked it left, and the thing ended up going to overtime. But another thing to talk about, we haven't hit on the quarterbacks. A lot of stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks. Last Monday night, Josh Allen put on a show. And I think, you got Josh Allen, you got Aaron Rodgers, and you got Patrick Mahomes. And much like the kickers, they're playing a different game than anybody else. And I think Josh Allen has emerged as clearly one of the top quarterbacks in the game. When he throws a little 10-yard in pattern or stuff like that, it is on those wide receivers in a heartbeat, and it hits them right in the numbers every time. He's making Cole Beasley look like, Julian Edelman out there. Yeah. And, there's a reason the Cowboys got rid of Cole Beasley. But, and then what happened in Philadelphia? Jalen Hurts. A guy comes in. They're running the exact same offense that they ran with Carson Wentz. The difference is in the read option. With Carson Wentz, you didn't have the option because he can't run. Yeah. And so I always wondered what Peterson was doing running that offense.
Why was he running the read offense with him to begin with? It made no sense whatsoever.
Sense whatsoever. And Jalen Hurts comes in, has 100-something yards rushing the first week. He looks great. But we're going to hit on that later when we get into the games because I think that's one of the games we have, that Philadelphia game.
Yeah. So I think, this whole quarterback thing, there are a couple quarterbacks that Brad purposely left off his list. And one of them was, of course, Russell Wilson. And if you look at how the Seahawks have sort of been sputtering through the second half of this season, I can't in good conscience sit here at this point and try to tell you that Russell Wilson deserves to be the league's most valuable player this year. I could through the first half of the season, but not through the entire season at this point. And we're going to cover this game a little bit later. And I suspect I know where Brad's actually going to go with this. But we've got this great game coming up later with a huge point spread. I think it's like 17 points. Jets, Rams. Will Brad Hoiseth finally find some love for Jared Goff? That is the question. All right, Brad, let's get into our top 10 games in the National Football League for Week 15. Worth spending some money on.
Well, let's jump right into it. Philadelphia is at Arizona. We talked about it with Jalen Hurts. I'm playing the over-under in this game, which is 49.5. It's went up quite a bit since the opening line came out, since Hurts had that performance. Things have suddenly changed in Philly with Hurts under center, and now the fans are ready to jump on the bandwagon as the over-under jumped 2 points in the first couple days. It started out at 47.5, went up to 49.5. If you'd had this line a week or two ago, it might have been 43, 44, something like that. But after everybody watched Hurts and what he did, the thing jumped. I love what Philadelphia did in getting Wentz out there. But the problem I see with this game, with this line jumping, is that Arizona sees this kind of player every day in practice, and they know how to defend it. And so I don't think the jump is justified. I'm going the under at 49.5. What say you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's the whole practice situation. They already practice against, which is actually a slower version of Kyler Murray to begin with and Jalen Hurts. Here's the deal. I think that if you're playing any kind of parlay this weekend, and Brad made some really good recommendations a couple weeks ago, which is really wait until you get into like Saturday night, Sunday morning to get your bets in if you can, because of COVID and everything that's happening. Assuming all things are equal, this would be one of the 3 games I would have in a parlay, and I would absolutely take the under in it. Jalen Hurts to me is I'm not on any kind of Jalen Hurts bandwagon at all. I'm nowhere near jumping on a train that's going to take me to Jalen Hurts land at this point. I need to see a lot more of Jalen Hurts before I believe that he is a long-term option for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm actually really happy to see him playing, that he's getting a chance, because when you see a dead duck in the water, Brad, it's not going to swim over to you. And I'm just saying, that's exactly where Carson Wentz is at this stage of his career. And for those people, there's people out there in the media that are still trying to defend Carson Wentz at this point. It's just amazing. It just absolutely blows me away.
Well, I actually am a big Jalen Hurts fan. In fact, I picked up Jalen Hurts in my fantasy league last week before he played, just because I wanted to see what he did. I got Josh Allen on my team, and Josh Allen's got kind of a tough schedule the rest of the way. Plays a lot of really good defenses, starting with the Broncos this weekend. But I just can't pull the trigger. I can't put in Hurts over Jalen or Jared Allen this weekend. I thought about it long and hard, and I so much want to, but I like Jalen Hurts. I like the experience. I think he makes, like I said, they're running the same offense that they were running with Wentz. He just can run it.
Yeah.
And the other guy couldn't do it. And so I've seen it for one way. I mean, they played a good football team last week. And so you have to give credit where credit's due. The kid came from a major program. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate. And as much as Carson Wentz is one of those local North Dakota hometown hero kind of guys, it just hasn't been his year, and it was time for Peterson to make a move. I would have made the move 4 or 5 weeks ago if I was Peterson. But anyways, let's get on to your first pick.
All right. So my first pick is the 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. Man. And Brad, I mean, like every time I see lines these days, it just makes me laugh a little bit. That the 49ers, being as banged up as they are 3-point favorites in this game. So I'm just like, it just blows me away that's actually the case in this game. I keep seeing in my mind Terrell Owens running to the center of the star at the Dallas Stadium, and in his 49er gear, and stomping on the helmet in the middle of the field. Look, let's put this in perspective. Both of these teams have had a ton of injuries. The 49ers clearly had a better roster coming into the season. They've had significantly more injuries. They lost to keep a few key players like Buckner, who ended up in Indianapolis, which has really hurt them, especially when they started having depth problems in San Francisco on the defensive side of the ball. So I look at this and I just think this comes down to coaching, and it's a question of who do you believe has the better coaching staff in this game? If you think Dallas does, then I say good luck to you. So I would go with the 49ers in this game, hands down.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. The Cowboys are just, I get the sense that the 49ers still think they've got some sort of outside shot, which I don't think they really do. And Shanahan's done a pretty good job at keeping that thing together despite everything seemingly falling apart on the roster. They still have an amazing amount of injuries on both sides of the ball, but the Cowboys are just so bad and so woeful right now. I do see this being a little bit more of a high-scoring football game, but I'm with you. I'm going to take I'm going to go with 3 points. I'm going to take the 49ers.
And one last note on the 49ers as well. I mean, they've been kicked out of San Francisco. Well, not just San Francisco, Santa Clara, San Jose. The whole Bay Area has said goodbye to the 49ers. And, their games, their home games are now in Arizona. It's really the dream of the Raiders from a couple years ago to not have a home and just, travel from one city to a city, pillaging things as they get there. And you can hear the music playing in the background. It's just so interesting to see how many different things have sort of affected the 49ers this year, and how COVID's, definitely taken its toll on the organization as a whole. And they're just a better organization at this point. If you're one of America's, if you still believe the Cowboys are America's team, then, it's time to sell you that bridge in Brooklyn.
All right, I'm going to go on to my number 2 game. To me, this is my game of the week, really. It's the simplest game of the week. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. It just, stuck out like a sore thumb. You name the rest of the superlatives. Houston is at Indianapolis, and Indianapolis is a 7-point favorite. Houston comes into the game really banged up. They don't have Will Fuller, who's suspended, and they just don't have a lot of options for Deshaun Watson. The Colts are playing for a divisional title. They need a win, keep pace with Tennessee. On top of that, Houston's defense is among the worst in the league. They give up almost 28 points a game, 406 yards, which ranks 31st. This is the kind of thing that Phillip Rivers, I think, has to be excited about, as Houston is 31st in the league in time of possession. They allow the other team to have the ball for nearly 55% of the game. Phillip Rivers will move the chains, churn up the clock, and let his number 6 ranked defense do the rest. I say take the Colts and give the 7 points all day long.
Yeah. Will Fuller, what were you doing? What were you thinking? You had a perfect chance to just make a ton of money in the next couple years, being the number one wideout in Houston, and you blew it. You can get suspended, I guess, for something for a game or two, but you can't get suspended for 6 games, Brad. You can't do it and then expect to get really paid. It takes a long time. And by the time, a National Football League, trusts you again, you're done. Your career's over. I mean, these careers are just not that long. So, it's a flat out shame. Look at the Colts and Phillip Rivers, and I agree with, most of what you said there. I just don't see, Houston protecting Deshaun Watson enough. And I think this Indianapolis defense is going to easily make a double digits victory a possibility for the Colts in this one.
Yeah, and it's one of those games. I think I picked like 3 of them this week where I call them what's at stake games. And we went through the first half of the season, and you're kind of trying to figure out who's good and who's not, and injuries settle in, and then all of a sudden you get towards the latter half of the season, and then you got one team that's really got a lot riding on the line, and you got another team that's got nothing riding on the line. And it's a case where it's a big game for Indianapolis. It really doesn't mean anything to Houston. I say the Colts just destroy them.
Yeah. I love this whole term too, by the way, the what's at stake term. And it's so. But just having logged so many hours doing a wide variety of video broadcasts this week, I thought you actually said, "What's that steak?" And I'm thinking, okay, prime rib, New York strip. Are we gonna throw some pictures of steak up on the screen so I can guess? Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, Brad. Okay, so moving on to the Bucs at the Falcons. The Falcons get 6 in this home game, and I look at this and I am just baffled beyond baffled by both of these organizations at this point. I don't think Tampa Bay played really well at all last week. I thought, yeah, they played a little bit better in the second half, but that game was basically handed to them on a Dan Bailey platter, as we talked about earlier. So I sort of look at this one. I've been on the fence on this, Brad. I was originally going to go with the Falcons in this game. This is one of those games where, since it is a what's at stake game as well, I'm going to change what you thought I was going to do, and I'm going to go with Tommy Brady in this game and the Buccaneers, because this game actually means something to them, and I really believe that their defense is going to do enough to slow down Matt Ryan. And I've said it before, Todd Gurley just, he has maybe 3/4 of what he used to have in his tank, and that's just not enough to get it done in the National Football League.
No, I agree with you here. I mean, the Buccaneers just played the Vikings last week. Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan are very similar quarterbacks. They both throw a nice deep ball. Neither one of them has any mobility in the pocket. And Julio Jones is not going to play this weekend, from what I understand. Todd Gurley is not the Todd Gurley he was 2-3 years ago. I just feel the Vikings could even have the opportunity to kind of run the ball against Tampa, which I don't think the Falcons are going to be able to do that. I think you're going to see Matt Ryan get hit a lot. I think you'll see at least 2 to 3 turnovers in that game. And again, it's what's at stake. The Buccaneers, they really need a win. And, the Falcons don't have much to play for it. They are a mystery team, Atlanta. I mean, sometimes they look absolutely great, and then other times they look absolutely terrible, so you really never know what you're getting. But you know what you get in Matt Ryan? You get a lot of turnovers. And the Buccaneers are one of the best turnover defenses in the league. I say that plays out this weekend, and so I'm in agreement with you there. I say take the Bucs, give the 6 points.
Yep. I agree, and it just what is Atlanta going to do? I mean, I look at Todd Gurley and we talk about these players and their careers and how they sort of start to ski down the backside of career mountain, as I like to say. And it's not to say they're bad people or they're bad guys or anything like that. I mean, Brad, at one point in my life, I didn't wear hats all the time because my head was balding. No, I had a full head of hair. It was Don King style for a long time. So people get older and their career aspirations and abilities to do certain things change. And that's sort of what's happened with Todd Gurley. And I have to tell you, I've always been a big fan of Matt Ryan, but he's not the kind of guy at this stage of his career. I think if this was the same Atlanta Falcons team with a younger Matt Ryan, they would be better than they are this year. But at this stage of his career, he's just making too many mistakes. He needs a lot of time to sit back in the pocket, and he's not going to get it. And he's going to turn into the next low arm gravity Phillip Rivers and get traded away or end up someplace else someday.
I've always thought Matt Ryan's a little overrated. It's just me. To me, I stick him in with Jared Goff, and I stick him in with Kirk Cousins. All three are capable at times of doing some nice things. None of the three seem to have any pocket presence whatsoever. And, they don't seem to know when the rush is coming. And then when they see any type of rush, Cousins and Goff in particular will just fall down.
Yeah.
And Matt Ryan's a little different in that Matt Ryan's always tries to stay in there and make a play, and he ends up throwing an interception. And so they're all three erratic. Matt Ryan has had probably as much talent around him during his tenure in Atlanta than any quarterback in the league. And so his fantasy numbers have always been good if you're a fantasy football player. I think he's gotten a lot of notoriety for those numbers, but he's never won a lot of really big games, and he's had a tremendous amount of talent around him. And now he's just turning the ball over, at a torrid pace. And so the Buccaneers need it. The Buccaneers have a really good defense. Buccaneers are going to come home. They're going to get home on Matt Ryan a few times this week.
Yep.
All right, on to my number 3 game. That's Seattle at Washington. Seahawks are a -6 in that game. Big game for both teams. I've been telling you all season, I don't think Seattle is nearly as good a team as their record. Seahawks are 9-4, but they're just 2-3 against teams with a winning record. Even though it seems like the defense has improved a little bit in recent weeks, they're still 27th in the league in defense after facing the trio of the Jets, Giants, and Eagles, and that was with the Eagles with Carson Wentz, by the way. This week they get one of the hottest teams in the NFC in Washington, who suddenly won 4 straight, a game of 500. Who would have ever guessed that, Dave, a few weeks back? The football team's arguably got the best young defensive line in the league. They're 4th in the league in sacks. Now they get a Seattle team that has a hard time protecting Russell Wilson. The Seahawks are 29th in the league in sacks allowed. They've also found some chemistry on offense with Washington, averaging 29 points a game in the last 3 weeks. They're not going to have their quarterback this week. That was just announced earlier today. So now it's going to be Haskins. I don't think it's a huge drop-off. I think they do some things okay. But I like the football team. They won 4 in a row. They're playing at home. They're playing a Seahawks team that I just don't think is all that good defensively. And I see this defensive line having a lot of fun with Russell Wilson. The Seahawks struggle against teams that can take Russell out of the game. And I like the football team in this one. So I will take Washington in the 6 points.
So something that Boomer Esiason and Brad Hoiseth have in common. I happened to catch Boomer's CBS, 1 minute sports thing on the radio earlier today, and he's like, upset of the week, Washington over Seattle, and I was in the car and I was like, well, Brad and Boomer are tied at the hip on this one, and I get it, I understand all those things, but I'm going to just do this for you, Brad. At the core, it's Russell Wilson versus who's the quarterback? Dwayne,
I don't know, Haskins.
Haskins.
We'll just call it Clem Haskins. Remember the old Denver coach?
I just and this game means something to both teams. And yes, Ron Rivera's done a fantastic job with the football team. He really has. So. I know they're going to come to play, but I'm just like, at some point you run out of pixie dust, and I'm just not seeing it at this stage. Pete Carroll, you're underestimating the power of Pete Carroll's happiness-go-lucky, power motivational thing that he does with his players. He's going to have them ready to go. They're going to win this game, and by at least. They'll absolutely cover this thing. So I'm going with the Seahawks.
Here's a question for you. So you've got here's the last 4 opponents now for the Seattle Seahawks: the Jets, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Washington Football. Who's got the best offense of those teams?
Who knows?
I think it's Washington.
Right.
Washington's got some pretty good running backs. They got a really talented young wide receiver, Cloran. The kid Thomas at tight end is playing good football. They developed this young wide receiver, last name Sims.
Yeah, all of that's good. I would have a different opinion about this game if they had a different quarterback playing. Not a quarterback that we don't know. This is all just allegedly, but just allegedly wasn't there for a game.
This might be the one game that gets you back to even with me for the season, Dabbah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, every one of these games, people, is so important. And, so when I'm picking against Brad, it's really got to be for a good reason. And I can't think of any better reason than Russell Wilson versus somebody for the Washington football team. I'm just saying. All right. Moving on to our next game. I've got the Browns at the Giants in this game, and it's in New York, and the Giants are getting 6.5 points in this game, and I want to be really cautious about, where I go with the Cleveland Browns at this point. And I think, not being in the playoffs for like 18 years in a row, we should tap the brakes a little bit on this Cleveland Browns team and this Cleveland Browns organization. I will say this, a couple things. One, they play a lot better when OBJ isn't there. Number two, Kevin Stefanski.
By the way, so do the Giants.
Yeah, so do the Giants. Yeah, so exactly. So Kevin Stefanski has gotten to Baker Mayfield in a way that Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans coaching staff has gotten to Ryan Tannehill at times this year. They've figured out how to use his the strengths that he has and how to break away from some of his weaknesses. Look, Baker's still going to make some mistakes here and there. He's still going to throw the errant pass. That's who he is. We all know he shouldn't have been the number 1 draft pick in the National Football League. If he was a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick, we'd all be singing the praises of Baker Mayfield at this point. But since there was so much pressure and there's so many goddamn progressive commercials on television that, there's no way he could live up to that hype. And I've been harping on this for like a year and a half now with all the commercials, but he's starting to sort of live up to some of that hype. And Kevin Stefanski has done a fabulous job with Baker Mayfield. And I just don't see this Cleveland Browns team heading in the opposite direction after what happened in one of the greatest Monday Night Football losses of all time. I just don't see them heading in the wrong direction here.
I think you're out of your mind. It's the Cleveland Browns we're talking about here. This is Baker Mayfield. Okay, Dave, this is a team that's 9-4. They've still given up 20 more points to their opponents than they've scored for the year. They've been sleeping with clover leaves all season long, okay? Now they got 2 tight ends hurt. They lost. They don't have one of their offensive linemen this week. They're playing a Giants team that has one of the best defenses in the NFC. I think this is an upset special. I really do. And Daniel Jones is maybe not going to play for the Giants. I think that's probably a good thing. I call that addition by subtraction, because I don't think Colt McCoy is going to turn the ball over as much as Danny Jones turns it over. I just think that I think the Browns are going to got some reality checks coming in the next 3-4 weeks. They're 8-4. They're probably going to make the playoffs. There's no guarantees, though. And, they lost a heartbreaker last week. We'll see how they respond to that now. This is one of those response games. And I'm not a believer in Baker Mayfield at all. I think he's an erratic thrower. They've done some nice things offensively recently. The Browns are much better when they play from ahead. They're a very good running football team. You're not going to run the ball very much against the Giants. The Giants can flat out stop the run. I think it's a problem place for Cleveland in this. I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take the points.
Yeah. 2 words for you, Brad. Case Keenum. That's the history of Kevin Stefanski. He can take sort of an average quarterback and cut down on the mistakes with him by using the strengths, which is what he's done with Baker Mayfield. Look, I'm with you, man. It is absolutely nuts to be taking the Browns going into New York and having to give up all these points to do it. But there's just something different there's something different about Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. This is it's just, they are playing like a different organization right now. I will be happy to come on and say I was wrong next week, but I think you'll have to come up and say you were wrong in this game when we hit our broadcast slot next week.
Here's the thing, though. It was an exciting football game the Browns played last week. Defensively, it was a disaster.
Terrible.
I mean, that was as bad a defense as I've seen all season long. And so I don't think all is well in Cleveland. I don't think the Browns are, going to make any great run. I think it's great what Stefanski's done. I think he's done a wonderful job. And I think the reference to Case Keenum was a really good one. I agree with that. But I think the Giants, they need to, they're right. They're still in the mix with the football team, and they got a lot to play for. They got a really good defense.
Yeah, Brad, just super quick. You know why do you know why the defense is so bad? Do you know why this Cleveland Browns defense is so bad right now? Because they went out and they signed Austin Hooper as a tight end. They gave him a lot of money. They already had a tight end on the roster, and then they drafted another tight end. They gave OBJ and they gave their other top wide Jarvis Landry a bunch of cash. They gave Nick Chubb a bunch of money. They gave a bunch of money to Kareem Hunt as well. And so you look at it, you look at this offense, it's just loaded, man. And like the salary difference has to be like, there's the guys who are driving the Rolls Royces and those that are renting Yugos at this point are on the defensive side of the ball. It is totally lopsided, and that's why there was no defense played in this game at all.
All right, let's go on to my number 2 game, which is Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. The Steelers are a 12.5-point favorite. I've said this a few times on our show. There's no reason to overthink some games. Pittsburgh's a really good team. Cincinnati's really bad. The Steelers are still holding out hope that they could have the top seed in the AFC. I don't think it's going to happen. But they need to get back to their winning ways. They've lost a couple in a row. This is Mike Tomlin at his best. He'll have the fellas focused and ready this week. Take the Steelers and give up the 12.5 points.
Yeah, this should be an absolute no-brainer. Only thing is, the Steelers just haven't been able to get their running game going at all. I mean, this is Cincinnati. This is Cincinnati, who, a couple years down the road now, we're going to start saying they should have never parted ways with 8-8 Marvin Lewis as their head coach. Mediocrity was way better than where they're at today. Is sort of the point of that statement. So I'm with you, Brad. I mean, this is to me an absolute no-brainer, especially at this stage of the season.
I was a little surprised that line was that low, actually. I mean, when you look at this line that's coming up that you're going to have with the Rams and the Jets, and we've seen lines up around 20 this year. I think it was the Jets were playing in Kansas City. We've seen a lot higher lines. 12.5 kind of surprised me, really, because I think Cincinnati might be on their number 3 quarterback going into this weekend. They haven't had Joe Mixon all season long. And they have some nice young weapons on offense on the outside with T. Higgins and some guys like that. But, this is a Pittsburgh team now that has lost 2 in a row. I can bet you that they were served some pretty bold messages by Mike Tomlin this week that they need to get out there. Plus, they're still holding out hope, like I said, that maybe they could get that number 1 seed. I don't think it'll happen. But they need to have a good performance, and they need to get back to their winning ways. I know James Conner's been dinged up, and they haven't had much of a running game, but I'm not sure it wasn't by design. I mean, they throw the ball more than any team in the league, and they've had a lot of success doing it. It wasn't until the Bills last week kind of stepped up and stopped them, which I think that kind of surprised a lot of teams. The Bills hasn't really been a powerhouse defense all season long, but they played well last week. Pittsburgh didn't play well. And I think Tomlin realizes now is the time. Just put your foot back on the gas pedal. Take it out on the Cincinnati Bengals, who just aren't very good.
Yeah, yeah. The Bengals are going to get beat up in this game for sure. All right, moving on, Mr. Hoiseth, to the Mitch Trubisky-led Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. I believe, there you go, Gods of Odds. Two 6 and 7 teams enter this game, and I think the Vikes are favored by 3 in this one. Like at the end of the day, this is sort of a question of who do you think's a better head coach, and who do you think's better quarterback at this point of the season. And Kirk Cousins, you said it sort of early in the week. He does, have his moments where he does a lot of nice things. And he's cut down on a lot of the mistakes for the most part. So if this is a game where they can get Cousins enough time to throw the ball, the Vikes are going to win it. If Chicago gets after Cousins in any way and applies a lot of pressure, then it's absolutely not going to happen. I believe the Vikings still feel like they have a shot at the playoffs more so than the Chicago Bears do. So I'm going with the Vikes in this one.
Well, we got the Gods of Odds super fan behind me, and she is a big Vikings fan. And, I remember way back when I had a hot streak going with the Vikings. I think I started the season 8-1 on Vikings games or something. I've cooled down a little bit since then. But you mentioned Cousins. I still think, despite his woes, he does throw the ball well downfield. I don't know that they're going to have an opportunity to do that way this week. The Bears still have a pretty formidable defense. I think the offensive performance we saw from Chicago last week was kind of an aberration. I don't see that happening 2 weeks in a row. The Vikings defense has started to wear down a little bit. I thought I saw some improvement in the middle part of the season. It seems like they've kind of, taken a couple steps backwards again here as the season is worn down. But the Vikings, I think, are a better football team than the Bears. I just do. This is a team that's 6 and 7. They should have beat the Seahawks. They should have beaten the Titans. They could have beaten the Buccaneers. They just have the Vikings will take like a quarter off, and it'll be the quarter from hell. Where they'll give up 21 points. I don't see that happening against the Bears. I don't think their offense is that formidable. Robinson's a good wide receiver. Montgomery has his moments at running back. And now Trubisky offers a little bit something different than the Vikings saw the first time around. But I'm with you. I think it's a dink and dunk game. I think you're going to see Irv Smith have a big game for the Vikings. A lot of, dump-off passes to Dalvin Cook, things of that nature. The Vikings are a much better team when they play from in front. So I think a lot of this game is about tempo, who gets out quick and scores first. But I'm with you. I think the Vikings, I'm going to give the 3. I think Minnesota wins this one. I just think they're a better football team.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Mr. Hoiseth, on
and
this
the super fan agrees, by the way. And one of these weeks, we're going to get that super fan on the show, and we're going to have her pick the Vikings game. How's that?
That would be absolutely fantastic. We will absolutely do that. From a technical perspective, we will figure out how to bring 3 people in into a call.
Maybe that's when we go live on YouTube or something. Who knows?
Yeah. We could do it live on YouTube. That might even be more confusing.
Wait till you see the superfans' technological glitches. That could be troublesome in itself.
We might actually just go really old school and have like a house phone yes. set up next to your computer and just have her talk into it. That's where we're at.
My final game is New England at Miami. I know this is a game that you and I are both kind of interested in. I think we're probably going to go opposite ways on this one. The Dolphins are a 2.5-point favorite. Seems like an eternity ago, but it was week 1 when New England beat Miami 21-11. The reality, this is a game between 2 very solid defensive teams. The Dolphins have been forcing turnovers all season. The Patriots have pretty much had to rely on their defense to keep them in games. This is my 3rd what's at stake game, Dave. As New England has to win to have any shot at making the playoffs, although I don't think they're really going to make it anyways. I think Bill Belichick is the greatest, the game has ever seen in one-game scenarios. It's the mentor versus the protege, as Flores tries to knock off his old boss. The Dolphins have played pretty mediocre football over the last 4 weeks. They played well and lost to the Chiefs. They played poorly, beat both the Jets and Bengals. They played poorly and lost to the Broncos. I say the desperate team wins. I'm going to take the Patriots. I'm going to take the 2.5 points. I think the Patriots might win this thing outright.
Believe it or not, I think maybe Bill Belichick at this point is thinking about where he's going to play COVID golf on his vacation. I think Belichick's golfing already. And I think this Patriot organization it's just got a ton of injuries, like most teams do at this stage of the season. This game means so much more, Brad, to the Dolphins than it does to the Patriots at this point. It's not even funny. And yeah, like the transition to Tua hasn't gone as smoothly as they would have hoped. But when I look at the egg that was laid in Los Angeles against the Rams last week, what was this? What was it? Like the Patriots scored like 3 points, I think, in that game. What was the final on that? It was 24-3, Brad. Now you're going to Miami. No. This is definitely going to be a Dolphins victory in this for a wide variety of reasons, some of which I just covered. And I think it's safe to actually pick up against Bill Belichick. I understand though what you're saying, mentor versus prodigy, but I just don't think Belichick cares that much right now, to be honest.
I watch the Dolphins now with Tua at quarterback, and it seems like they run like 5 plays.
Yeah.
I mean, they either run the ball or they roll Tua out to his left, and they try to find somebody along the sidelines. They got a lot of injuries. The running backs have been decimated. Mike Gesicki, who's maybe been their most valuable player on offense during the year, the tight end, it doesn't look like he's going to play. He had a big shoulder injury there last week. They're listing him as questionable. I think he's doubtful. I saw that injury. It looks like a separated shoulder to me. But I just think it's a very vanilla offense right now with Tua. He rolls out, but he's not a kind of guy like, Deshaun Jackson or any of those guys that can take off and run and get you 20, 25. He'll get you 6 or 7. But they're being very careful with him. They're bringing the playbook in slowly. I thought at least with Ryan Fitzpatrick, at least they had, you didn't know what was coming. You also didn't know if it was going to be an interception or not. But, Fitzpatrick did make things interesting. I probably wouldn't ordinarily bet this game. It was my final game that I picked, but I just have this sense that the Patriots aren't quite dead yet. I just, we keep trying to kill them off, and they're not dead until they're dead, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's how the coffin goes. But it's like Ryan Fitzpatrick is, he's so fantastic because he's one of those quarterbacks that's actually at some point, you start to think he's colorblind for some games, not all the games, but he has that. Yeah, it's like every 4th game he's colorblind and he starts throwing the ball to the wrong team consistently more than his own team. But then the rest of the time the kid's great. It's so much fun to watch play. So anyways, look, this really is sort of a gut check question, right? And I think we saw the gut check in Los Angeles last week, and I think they're done. I think the Patriots have thrown in the towel, and they're done trying to do anything this year. It is Bill Belichick looking at brochures on websites about where he's going to be playing COVID-free golf at for the rest of the year. I mean, I think that's where we're at this point. In fact, even just let Josh McDaniels coach both sides of the ball in this game. Let him run with it and see what happens. All right. So moving on to the last pick, and Brad, this was, I think, maybe the biggest line. I don't know. I think this is the biggest line we've had all year. And I was so excited about this one because it's got the Jets going to Los Angeles to do battle with the Rams.
We've actually had the Jets 3 times with the biggest line of the year. I think the one against Kansas City was like 19 and a half.
Yeah.
And then earlier, 3-4 weeks ago, it was 17, I think, as well. So all 3 times it's been the Jets.
Yeah, and this is a 17-point line, right? And so I look at this game and I'm like, okay, now do I do I believe that the Rams are going to show up the way they showed up against the Patriots? Or do I believe the other Rams team's going to show up? Yeah, they're going to win the game, but they're just not going to win it by 17. Is the Rams team that I think I'm going to see? I think I'm going to receive the texts that say, Goff is horrible. He's absolutely terrible. What is he doing? How is he still a starting quarterback in the National Football League? Dabbah, I don't care that Goff is from your neighborhood. Doesn't matter to me. He's terrible. Doesn't belong in the NFL. I'm going to get some of those texts on Sunday, and that's when I'm going to know that that they're not covering this spread. They're going to win, but they're not going to cover the spread.
Well, I'm going to take the Rams, and I'm not going to take the Rams because of Jared Goff. I'm going to take the Rams because I think they have, right now, maybe the best defense in the league, which is exactly why the New England Patriots last week looked like a disaster. And, the Jets have nothing. I mean, they're playing for the number 1 pick right now. And the Rams are still in a battle for hopefully a divisional crown for them. The thing that I really like about the Rams right now is the last few weeks they've really gotten the running game going. And when they get the running game going, Jared Goff suddenly looks like a mediocre quarterback. What do you like how I slipped that in there?
Yeah.
The rest of the time, he looks like a terrible quarterback.
Yeah.
But because when he doesn't have to carry the team, they're a much better team. And Cam Akers looked really good last week. The offensive line now is starting to get their push. They're starting to get big holes. They did it last week in a pretty decent defense. And I just feel like the Rams have kind of hit their stride. They might be hitting their stride at the right moment. Everybody's talking about Kansas City and Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and all these other things, and nobody's really paid much attention to the Rams. But they're playing pretty good football, and that defense is with Jalen Ramsey on the back end and all the guys they got up front. That I see a lot of problems for Sam Darnold and the Jets. They got Jamison Crowder, who's like 75 years old, but he's still the best wide receiver on the team. He's like questionable now for the game, and I just see it being a really long day for the Jets. I'm going to take the Rams begrudgingly and give up the 17 points.
Like I didn't have time to put together the sign I wanted to hold up, which was "Let's go Gates." All very valid. Brad is always well thought. Thinks these things through from all the angles. Even when he's wrong, he's very well thought in how he gets to his opinions. So that's good. Much respected. So I think this is just it's just one of those games, Brad, like it's going to be halftime. The Jets are going to be down by 3 or up by 3 or something. Like, it's going to be a low scoring. Something's going to be there that's going to scare you, and then you're going to fire off a bunch of texts, and it's just this has nothing to do with me believing in the Jets as much as this has to do with me not believing in that Rams offense to not make some mistakes along the way. But they shouldn't. I mean, they should win this by 20. Great running game. Offensive line, as you pointed out, is getting better. One of the best defenses in the NFL. This should be an easy slam dunk. But 17 points is a lot. And you're also really relying on somebody who, at best, you think at times is mediocre to be the leader of that offensive side of the ball.
Go Goff. Go Goff.
Yeah, go Goff.
No, look, I just don't see the Jets scoring more than 13 points in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of it, can the Rams score 30 on the Jets? The Jets are also, people forget, they're also really bad defensively. They play hard, but they're really bad defensively. So, to me, it's just one of those games, kind of like, now look at this game. How big a difference is this than the Steelers-Cincinnati game? I mean, why is there 5-point difference in the lines?
Only thing I can think of is one team's on the road, and that's it. I mean, and in fact, Cincinnati's worse off than the Jets are right now from a performance standpoint. Like, anyways, it is.
Oh, I know one thing I wanted to talk about. Now that we got a little time here, we can get a few more things off our slate. Big hearty congratulations to Deion Sanders this week, Dave. Now, I don't know if you saw the introduction when he took over as the head coach at Jackson State, historically black college, a few weeks ago, and he had this big entrance into the stadium where they had police cars with the lights going and everything. He made a big moment out of it. This week was early National Signing Day, and just to go show you how impressionable this guy is on kids, he got the #1 junior college corner in the country, kid from Lackawanna College, who had offers from Alabama, Georgia, you name it, LSU. He had 35 offers. He signed at Jackson State. They also got a linebacker from USC to transfer through the transfer portal to Jackson State. They got a safety from South Carolina. They got an offensive lineman from Florida A&M. And then yesterday, they just had a kid flip from Florida, an offensive lineman, to Jackson State. So what in the world is going on? I mean, congrats to Deion. Congrats to Jackson State. They're going to be the most watched 1AA or whatever you call them these days program in the country. But I thought that was a really interesting story this week of how all these kids, maybe it has something to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm not sure. Kids thinking, hey, I'm going to go to a historically black college and play. I think Jackson State is one of those, aren't they? I'm not sure. I thought they were, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had all these kids that came in, and I mean, they're just going to massacre teams, right? Watch out, Elkhorn State, because here comes Jackson State.
Look, a little bit of prime time in college football is a good thing, and it will be interesting to see if he can actually coach. But in terms of being a recruiter. Certainly, I mean, not that you can really go into people's family rooms anymore right now to talk to the parents and the kids, and you don't really need to do that at the when you're recruiting out of JC as well. But you're on a Zoom call with Deion Sanders versus Nick Saban, and you're a cornerback.
No, and you're one of corner. Who do you want to play for? Who do you want to play for? Corners of all time.
Yeah. So the idea that I mean, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I think the real question is, will they be bowl eligible next year?
Well, I mean, hey, look, we're seeing some of those teams, the Coastal Carolinas of the world, who are undefeated, and they're all over Twitter and they're going crazy. They're calling themselves America's team. And then there's I thought was interesting is BYU went to Coastal Carolina on 2 days' notice a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw that, but that BYU had one of their games canceled.
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina had an open date. Those were two of the smaller schools that were trying to make a push, see if they could get into that playoff scenario.
Yeah.
And so they took that game on a Wednesday and played it on a Saturday, which was bizarre. And BYU went down there. They came up 1 yard short of winning that game. Coastal Carolina won it, but it's been a wild year for college football. We got a big game tonight, Oregon against USC. But it's been a funky year for college football. I mean,
it has been trying to have bowl games. It's a joke. It's like, it's been hard to watch. I saw a couple of the bowls got canceled. Trying to figure out who's gonna, if there could be like a national championship, champion this year. But at the very least, like the Golden Gophers, they had so many games canceled. Did you see the Gophers won last week? They had 30 guys that couldn't play. Yeah. I mean, so that's why it's total grain of salt. You got college basketball, is tipped off as well. And the NBA is coming back on Christmas Day, and they're all gonna, it doesn't matter how great their protocols are, they're all gonna have issues. If you're not in a bubble, you're gonna have all sorts of issues. All right, Brad, a special thanks to our super fan for checking out the big Gods of Odds merchandise, which you can get at the mighty.rip website. You'll see a big merch section there. Mr. Hoiseth, any last comments before we get out of here?
No, we're almost there. I mean, I didn't think we'd get here with the NFL. Here we are, week 15, and they're still playing games. I mean, we had that one hiccup earlier in the year with Tennessee that had to move their game to another week, but
yeah.
Seemingly now the NFL has come up with some sort of plan, and the people kind of are getting familiar with it now. And I would remind people, if you're going to bet games, wait till late in the week. Otherwise you're going to get burned, because I was a couple knuckleheads out there that have gotten in, close proximity of somebody. They say, hey, by the way, they're saying Drew Brees is going to play this weekend, which I can't believe. We didn't even touch on that game. Kansas City, New Orleans, my preseason Super Bowl favorites, by the way.
Well, we're not going to talk about my Super Bowl favorites at all on this point, but what I will say is I was absolutely right about John Gruden and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah,
the Raiders,
that's the worst defense in the league.
They are doing exactly what I thought they would do. It took a little time for them to fall back to earth, but they are the 7-7 Raiders. We're recording this on Friday, so we've already watched their big loss on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, all right, is that the worst defense in the league, or what? I mean, that's. And by the way, is that a Lakers sweater you're wearing there? I'm kind of wondering. You're living up. You kind of blow like the wind when it comes to the NBA. It's either the Warriors when they're playing well. The Lakers have won it.
So the Lakers story is really simple. Moved to Southern California. I was 13 years old. The Minnesota Timberwolves hadn't even been born yet. So I get to LA, Brad, and this is pre-Olympics, by the way. So I get to LA, and I have a choice between the Clippers and the Lakers. So I go Lakers. I've been a lifelong Laker fan, so I have dual rights because I also like the T-Wolves, and I thought it would be fun to follow a Minnesota team from the very beginning, which has turned into an agonizing decision, a decision I regret every year. But I will loyally follow the Timberwolves as I do the Los Angeles Lakers. So,
all right, David. Hey, if I don't talk to you before that big holiday, you have a good one. I don't know if we're going to shoot next week before the holiday. We'll probably shoot that thing on like Wednesday or Thursday, right?
Yeah. We'll find a way to get it in. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you do check out our big website at mighty.rip and our big merch store. That is Brad Hoiseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Dabbah in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out mighty.rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.